Hey, Russ Rogers here from the 17 Law Studio, and today I want to talk practical. I want to talk about how to put all these love languages into action today. I want you to watch this, and in a few minutes from now, I want you to be able to do some things that would drastically change your marriage. To keep this relatively brief, I'm only going to talk about the top four love languages that I see most of the time. You may not know what a love language is, and you may not know, and you that you should even care, and you may know what they are, and you're tired of hearing about them. But hey, I get that. I'm not trying to make this sound better than it really is, but I promise you that nearly 100% of the time I'm chatting with couples, the topic of love languages come up. Just this last week, a guy came in my office and said, "Wow, it's been a rough couple of days at my house. Woo! No matter what I say, it's turning into a tense situation." Now, keep in mind, they have small kids in the house. I said, "Hey, you told me you played golf with your buddies the other day on your day off. I'm curious, when was the last time you had a date night? When was the last time you spent any length of time with your wife?" And you could see his face just sink as he just realized that he really hadn't had any quality time with his wife in probably a month. She's home with the kids all day, every day, and for a month he's not initiated some time with her, some real time, some quality time. He immediately called his wife and scheduled a date night. About a week later, I asked him, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "Oh, man, it's going great," with a huge smile on his face. So here's what's funny. For the past couple of years, I've had the exact same conversation with him. Here's what people do in all aspects of life: they don't worry about anything until it's an issue. And fortunately for him, the issue didn't get too far out of hand. So much of the time, our job, our health, or whatever, we don't really focus on it until it gets sideways. And in love language, time after time, I'll chat with folks about it, give them practical ways to implement, and they will for a while. Life gets good, then they stop, then life goes to hell in a handbasket, and they come back to me, and we start the process all over again. So let's get practical today. Now, if you don't remember what love languages are, well, the easy answer is this: it's how God made us to give and receive love. It doesn't make one of us better than the other. It's just that we're different. And so around our house, we'll say that, hey, some people like red cars and some people like blue cars. So if your spouse receives love in their love language, then by default, if you don't show love in their language, then they won't feel loved. You're only showing love the way you like to receive love. Then unless that is the same as your spouse, you're going to have issues. For example, I want this to make sense. It's like my wife who loves to wear jeans. Well, if I'm not working, I'm typically wearing shorts like I am right now. And I love to wear shorts. Let's suppose she likes jeans, so she keeps buying me jeans. Well, I like shorts, but she keeps buying me jeans. She's so proud of herself because she loves me so much that she keeps buying me gifts because she loves me so much. And of course, I'm thinking, what the heck? I don't even like jeans. I like shorts. So, this is exactly how love languages work when you don't understand them. If you only show love the way you like to receive love, then you'll continue to have a stressful marriage. Now, I'll not go into a ton of detail on what each one is since there are other shows on this, and I have entire chapters devoted to this in my 17 Laws of Marriage and 17 Laws of Parenting books. So, what I will do is this: touch on each one and give you tons of ways to use them. If you've not already, go online, look up Gary Chapman's 5 love language tests, and see what your love languages are and your spouse's. What's cool is they also have a test for teens and smaller children, which is super helpful because the exact same thing is true with your children, in that if you don't show them love in their love language, then they won't feel loved. Anyway, once you get that info, come back here. I'll start with the one that I see the most, the love language I see the most. Only one time in my life did I see that the love language of quality time wasn't in the top two for a wife. In the one time, I almost wish I could ask her to take the test one more time because it's hard to believe. This is where I see guys mess up a marriage the most. They merely do not invest actual quality time with their spouse. There are plenty of excuses, too busy, kids, activities, workload, work, travel, too tired. Oh, this is a season, all that. However, none of those are as hard as going through a divorce. Many of you watching this have gone through divorce, and you know that that's one of the hardest things on earth you can go through. If you really love your spouse and your spouse has quality time, then there should be evidence that you love your spouse, and that would be to love them like they were made to feel loved. Here's some practical ways on quality time. My wife and I have a date night each week, and we guard that with our life. It's on the calendar, and nothing other than sickness or travel, as in literally one of us is traveling and we're apart, not in the same state, are the only reasons we wouldn't have a date night. Most of the time, that's at home, and sometimes we go out. When the children were younger, we went out, and now that they're older and they're out and about, we'll have a date night at home. Why home? Well, it's so much easier to have uninterrupted, intimate conversations at home versus at a restaurant. Sometimes, when we're super busy during the week and the house is full of people, Tracy and I will jump in my truck and we'll just head out for a little while. Oftentimes, we find ourselves parked at a river near where we live and we'll just sit and chat. And if I see that we've gone a few days, or perhaps I've been traveling a bit, I can see that she's not a happy camper. Then I know quality time is an issue. By the way, you have surely figured out by now that I married a quality time girl. I say all this because you can't use too busy as an excuse. If your children are into sports, then take the time to sit with each other during the ball games to have some fun time rather than that being the time where the men sit with the men and the women sit with the women. If the sports have practices, then you can and you have to take them, use that time to go sit and have a cup of coffee and just visit during the practice. Worst case, sit in the car and visit. You guys who spend every waking moment working, playing golf on your day off, hunting, playing softball, bowling, or whatever you do with your buddies and everything else, well, you are focusing on you and you only. And there will be a day that you'll regret that. And I hope you figure this out before it's too late with your marriage. Ladies, the same goes with you. If you married a quality time guy, the same is true with you. When your children are super young, find a babysitter. If you have no money, swap out babysitting with other couples who have no money so that they babysit for you on your date night and you can babysit for them on their date night. Well, if none of that is possible, then put the children to bed early and enjoy each other's company on the couch for a while, a few nights a week. When our children were younger, probably like toddler age, well, we moved to a city and we didn't know a soul and certainly didn't have anyone we would entrust to keep our children. We had what we called couch time. We would just sit on the couch for a few minutes each night and the children knew not to come in that room. You may be thinking that your children would never stay out. So please listen to my show on discipline or read that in my books, and you'll find that it's not only possible, but that your children are begging for you to make them disciplined. Anyway, my children appreciated that we chatted and knew that mom and dad were okay. There's security that mom and dad was there, so they quickly grew to look forward to seeing that everyone was okay. Now, I want to touch on this before we jump into the next love language. Stay off your phones. Turn off the TV. Seriously, if you're with your spouse, put the phone away. If you have to check on the kids, put a special ringtone for them just so that you'll not have to worry about it unless you hear that ringtone. Hey, I get it. You're super busy. But I assure you that you're not busier than a lot of other people. And if you're super busy, well, start figuring out a way to clear your calendar for the most important relationship you have on earth, your spouse. All right, let's move on to the next love language. I see in most every marriage, and it seems like it's the most often in men, but it's always on the radar for women, and that is words of affirmation. I have personally seen that most people need an element of this love language, words of affirmation. Words of affirmation isn't flattery or blowing smoke up your butt. It's pointing out the good qualities about them that are already there. For example, hey, great job putting that together, that swing set. Or hey, dinner you cooked was a top 5 ever. Hey, you look amazing in those jeans. I am so lucky. You're the best looking wife at dinner last night. Hey, you are so smart. Or thank you for making that happen. Wow, I so appreciate you working so hard to provide for us. Or hey, great job talking her off the ledge last night. Okay, you name it. Words of affirmation will put a smile on their face in a minute. Your spouse will walk through walls when you load up on the words of affirmation. If you offered a gift of something or kind words, the words of affirmation person would choose kind words all day long. Let me give you a huge caution here. For words of affirmation people, the contrary to what you would think, but harsh words tend to cut very deeply. You may say something harsh, wish you hadn't have said it, prayed to God 1,000 times that he would reverse the clock so you could rethink your words. But the truth is, it may take a while for them to recover. They're not thin-skinned or too sensitive. God made their love language words of affirmation, and you trampled all over it. A small note, a text, a kind word goes a long way. So I'm a words of affirmation guy. Every day before I walk out the door, my wife says, "Oh wow, you look nice today." 100% of the time, even though it's 300 and some odd times a year, I smile and I appreciate it. It never gets old. Leaving sweet notes, sweet text, a kind email, all those are awesome. Another one is bragging about your spouse in front of others goes a long way. And as I just mentioned, trashing your words of affirmation spouse in front of others hurts deeply and will cause real resentment in your marriage. You may think your spouse is a jerk, so you don't want to say anything nice. But hey, if you want to reduce the chances of your spouse being a jerk, find something nice to say about them. If your spouse is a words of affirmation spouse and you sense there's tension, I would bet a farm in Georgia that you've not had a kind word to say in a few days. And or if you have said, you may have said some harsh things recently and your spouse is still having to process the harsh words. So stop listening to this right now. Send your words of affirmation spouse a sweet text or email or give them a call or heck, go tell them. Okay, next. I want to talk about the love language of physical touch. This is where the guys typically think it's all about sex. Now, it can lead to that, but it's not sex. If your spouse is a physical touch person, it's somewhat simple and that they feel loved if you are touching them. If you only touch them to have sex, then you'll be met with some resentment because that's not really what it is. For example, there are obviously times where physical touch is designed or your plan is for it to lead to sex. But if the only time you are touching your physical touch spouse is to get sex, then they will never feel loved in that area. And I hope that makes sense. For clarity, it's okay to have physical touch with the intentions of sex. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and I hope it happens a lot in your marriage. But that should not be the only time physical touch is happening or the only time a physical touch spouse is receiving physical touch. Physical touch is holding hands, arms around each other in church or at a movie, putting your hand on their leg, rubbing their shoulder while they're cooking or sitting down at work, sitting super close to each other on the couch, touching, sneaking in some kisses, perhaps some extra sexy touching in the grocery store or in the other room when nobody's looking over at your friend's house, hugging when you see each other, actual real hug, not that little goofy side man hug things that we do. Touching. Again, if you are only touching to get sex, then your spouse knows that you really are not touching to show love and will pick up that you are only touching to get sex, which makes it all about you. If you married a physical touch person, a hug, a kiss, arms around each other, well, as you do those things, you can watch the body language of your spouse just relax. You'll see them smile and you'll see them feel loved. Okay, there are more love languages, but I said we would only discuss the top four that I typically see. So here's the last one we'll discuss today, and that is acts of service. You'll like this one. Acts of service is where you feel loved when someone does something for you that you would like or enjoy. Sounds simple, right? This could be fill up your spouse's car with gas, cook their favorite meal. If one spouse uses a particular sink and the plumbing is messed up, well, fixing that would qualify as an act of service. If you ordered something that requires assembly, well, finally getting around to assembling it would be a good act of service. Fixing your spouse lunch to take to work when they typically fix their own. Sometimes doing the laundry is an act of service, assuming you typically don't do it and assuming you don't mess it up like I would. I try to have coffee ready for my wife every morning, and she so appreciates that. I have a friend where both he and his wife work, and she so appreciates him getting the kids their bath and putting them to bed. She loves to cook dinner and clean the kitchen, so he appreciates that aspect of it. Keep in mind that if your spouse receives love by acts of service and you never do those things, then you will see issues in your marriage just like the other love languages. And unless you understand acts of service, you'll never know why your spouse is giving you a hard time. Back to more acts of service. Here's some ideas. Okay. A while back, I tore my ACL, well, actually twice in the same knee, and we live on a hill. So I appreciate that my wife has arranged for someone else to mow our yard other than me. Happens to be my son right now, so I'm very grateful. You can make the bed, plan a date, match the socks, change the sheets, clean up after the dog, clean up the house, take out the trash, wash their car, offer to take the kids to wherever it is they're going, offer to go to the grocery store, you name it. The possibilities are endless. Okay, before I close, I'm hopeful that this is helpful. I really do see this all the time, so I wanted this show giving you real practical ways, simple ways that you can show love to your spouse with their love languages, not yours. Now, this is exciting. Keep in mind, doing all these things do not have to cost any extra money whatsoever. I would suggest that you put reminders on your phone that a few times a week you're paying attention to at least two of these for your spouse. Whether your spouse receives love with quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, or acts of service, put on your reminders on your phone exactly what you plan to do to show your spouse love. In the meantime, follow me here. Check me out on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. You can also check me out at the17laws.com. I have the coolest thing called the Marriage Commitment Challenge coin that you'll want to check out, and that's on my website. And all these things I share, I know we're not perfect, but I feel like we do a pretty good job of helping families.